Hey guys, Mr. Mackey here, and welcome to day one of Algebra Week. Algebra is a word you've probably seen a lot, but you may not even be sure what algebra even means. Algebra simply means we're doing a mathematical problem, but we don't know one of the numbers. Simple as. So what we do is we use a letter to replace that number. Now, most of the elements of algebra, and what we're going to be doing for all of this week, is we're going to be trying to find what that letter actually means, what the number the letter actually is. And there's loads of different methods for that. And those different methods can only apply in certain scenarios. So I'm going to do one of the methods today. Now, before we do anything involving algebra, I'm going to do a couple of these questions first to show you what I mean. So, I'm thinking of a number, okay? I times it by 3. And then I add 1. The number I end up with is 16. What's my original number? So, I'm thinking of a number. I times it by 3. Then I added 1 to it. And I ended up with 16. Now, how I tend to solve questions like this is I make something known as a flowchart. So let's do it. So I have an unknown number. So I'm going to put a question mark. I'm timesing that unknown number by 3. Then I'm adding 1 to that unknown number. And from that, I get 16. Now, if we're doing all this to get 16, we have to reverse it to get from 16 to our original number. So let's now go backwards. So we're starting with 16. We now turn the arrow the other way. Instead of adding 1, what's the opposite? Well, if we're not adding, we are subtracting 1. We turn that arrow the other way. And instead of timesing by 3, we're dividing by 3. And that will get us our unknown number. So let's do it. What's 16 minus 1? Well, that will get 15. So what is 15 divided by 3? Well, that will get our unknown number, which is 5. Flowcharts are really cool, aren't they? And we can definitely use them in algebra. How? We'll see in a minute. Let's now do another one of these. I'm thinking of a number. I added 4 to it. Then I divided it by 2. The number I got from that was 11. What was my original number? So, let's write it. I have an unknown number. I added 4, then divided it by 2 to get 11. Now, I'm not going to do a question mark for this one. For this one, I'm going to use a letter, like in algebra. I'm going to do x. So I have an unknown number, which I'm going to call x. I added 4, divided it by 2, and I got 11. So let's reverse it. So we have 11. We do our arrow. Instead of dividing it by 2, we're timesing it by 2. Do another opposite arrow. Instead of adding 4, we're minusing 4. And we will end up with x, our unknown number. So what is 11 times by 2? Well, that will be 22. What's 22 minus 4? That will be 18. And 18 is our unknown number. Now, before we move on, how could we check if 18 is actually our answer? Because we might have made a mistake in this part. How can we check it? Well, might I suggest we then put 18 here, add 4 to 18, that will get us 22. Divide 22 by 2 and you'll get 11. Must be right then. Always check your answers. You might have made a mistake halfway through. I know this is quite a quick and easy flowchart, but there could be complicated ones. Always be certain. Check what you're doing. Now, let's go the next step up. Now, here's a good example of an algebra problem. We have 6x minus 2 equals 28, and I want to find x. But how can we do that? How can the flowchart help us with this? Well, let me just say, so this is x. X is our unknown number. What are we doing to x first? We're timesing it by 6, because that means 6 times x. It's just an easier way of saying it. Then we're minusing 2. And from that, we get 28. What's our unknown? How do we find it? Well, we reverse the process. We do 28. Instead of minusing, we're adding 2. Instead of timesing by 6, we're dividing by 6. And that will get us x. So, what is 28 add 2? That will get us 30. What's 30 divided by 6? 30 divided by 6 will be 5. And x is 5. But we still need to check it. What's 5 times 6? 30. 30 minus 2, 28. Yep, it's definitely 5. Absolutely fantastic. And that's how we can use the flowchart in algebra problems. Let's try another one. Let's try this one. So we have 4, and then in the brackets we have x plus 9 equals 40. So let's do a flowchart. We have an unknown number, which is x. What are we doing to it first? Quite a few of you will say, well, you're timesing it by 4 because the 4 is in front of the x. But do you remember when I did that video on BIDMAS? What did I do first? You always focus on the brackets first. What's happening in the brackets? We're adding 9. So that is actually what we are doing first. We're adding 9 to x because it's in the brackets, BIDMAS. Then what are we doing after that? Well, then we're timesing it by 4. And that will get us 40. So let's clean it up a bit. 40 divided by 4, which gets us 10. Minus 9, and that will get us 1. Let's check it though. 1 of 9 is 10. 10 times 4, 40. And that's how we can do BIDMAS. Brackets may be a bit difficult to follow sometimes, especially in this, but always remember, whatever happens inside the brackets is what we are doing first to x. Now this one may look difficult because we're doing more than two things in this, but work with me here. So what are we doing to x first? Well, we're doing it inside the bracket. So ignore the 3, ignore the 6. What's going on inside the bracket? So we start with our x. We are timesing by 7. Then what are we doing inside the brackets? We're minusing 1. Now outside the brackets, the first thing we're doing is we're timesing that bracket by 3. And then we're dividing the whole thing by 6. And that will get us the answer 31. It's a lot to do, isn't it? Quite a lot of things. But I've given you all of those to help get... So that's how we get to 31. So what you need to do is now we're going to reverse the process. But not today. This is your challenge for tonight. I want you to reverse this really complicated flowchart and find for me what x is. Okay? It is a whole number, so you don't need to worry about that. And also test it. Even though you may have got a whole number, this is quite a complicated one to follow. Check to see you're right, because you might have made a mistake. I'm looking forward to doing Algebra Week. It's one of my favourite subjects in maths and I cannot wait to work with you guys. Tomorrow we're going to look at another method to solve problems like this. What is it? See if you can figure it out. And don't forget to subscribe and share this channel and tell everyone about it, because we need to, as I always say, keep our children learning. Thank you. Have a good evening.